Good Friday morning. Thanks for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Lauren Lemanchik. Developing right now, parts of the Ukrainian capital Kyiv and other cities are without power and water after what's being described as a massive and deadly attack from Russia overnight. Michelle Beck's at the live desk now with more.
Well, at this point, full daylight in Ukraine will make these images clearer and that much harder to look at. We know a child died in the southeastern part of the country. That coming from Ukraine's president in his most recent update posted a few hours ago. He also reports more than 20 people across the country are injured. You can see some of the impacted people here, a result of Russian drone and missile strikes, according to Zelensky. Reporting by the Associated Press shows that in recent months, Russians have escalated their strikes on Ukrainian cities, and often their targets are on civilian areas and energy infrastructure. Since his update overnight, Zelensky says crews are working to restore power and water supply right now. I just checked, and Ukraine is only a bit colder than what you're waking up to. And of course, the temperature's only dropping from here. President Zelensky also pointed that out as, again, that critical energy infrastructure appears to be under attack. Back to you.
New this morning, a ceasefire is officially in effect in Gaza. Israeli troops slowly withdrawing from the war-ravaged area. Now we're learning President Trump plans to travel to the Middle East for the peace deal signing between Israel and the Hamas terrorist group. Hostages expected to return to their families early next week. The news bringing rare moments of bipartisanship on Capitol Hill, where NBC's Alice Barr has the latest on this developing story.
Hi there. We're tracking major developments in the Middle East with the ceasefire now in effect. There are celebrations across Gaza and Israel, though much remains uncertain. Now, word that the U.S. military is planning to help support stabilizing Gaza. Smoke is fading over Gaza, relief rising for Palestinians and Israelis, as the Israeli military announced a long-sought ceasefire is now in effect, and its forces moving to new deployment lines within Gaza. Part of the first phase of a peace deal the Israeli government and Hamas both approved, and President Trump advanced.
I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace.
The president planning to travel to Egypt this weekend for a formal signing and the return of the remaining hostages, 20 believed to still be alive after 2 years in Hamas captivity.
They should be released on Monday or Tuesday. Getting them is a complicated process.
And there are even more complicated steps ahead, including a requirement for Hamas to disarm and leave power, still an open question.
They got to be written out of the future of Palestine.
Cautious optimism on Capitol Hill, where lawmakers in both parties gave credit to President Trump.
What we need is bipartisan support for the peace process, which will be fraught with obstacles, make no mistake.
The biggest challenge, how to bring Gaza back from the ruins and secure a peaceful future. President Trump adamant no one will be forced to leave and that neighboring nations will help rebuild.
We're going to create something where people can live. You can't live right now in Gaza.
The U.S. military preparing options to send as many as 200 troops to Israel to ensure stability and the flow of aid into Gaza, according to 2 U.S. officials familiar with the planning, who noted there will be no American boots on the ground in Gaza. As for how this deal came together, Secretary of State Marco Rubio pointed to some key turning points, including President Trump securing the backing of leaders of Muslim-majority nations at the UN General Assembly last month, getting Israel's prime minister to sign on in a White House visit, and delivering a final ultimatum to Hamas. In Washington, I'm Alice Barr. Back to you.
We're getting some local perspective on the deal in the Middle East. U of M law professor says deals like these are hard to negotiate.
That the U.S., as it has done in so many other conflicts, holds the line and holds the parties to their commitments to the fullest extent of what they've agreed in this critical phase. Normality is the test of whether it works or it doesn't. People able to live ordinary, decent human lives, where each life is as protected as the other on both sides of the conflict, that is success.
Now, she also says success is rooted in ensuring there isn't a return to violence and rebuilding Gaza, which is something the Jewish Relations Community Council also agreed with. It's day 10 of the government shutdown, and there does not appear to be an end in sight. We know the shutdown won't end today because the Senate's gone home and won't get back to work until Tuesday. That's leaving federal employees without paychecks and a lot of travelers worried about even more flight delays. Audrey Russo's at MSP, where this is especially concerning to Minnesotans planning to travel for the upcoming MEA weekend.
That's right. And right now, it kind of feels like MSP is in a bubble compared to the headlines we're seeing across the country. If you look up at the flight boards, everything's on time except for one canceled flight to Milwaukee. The TSA line is moving along pretty short, but we know that when MEA starts next weekend, that is going to be the game changer, and that is really when things are going to get busier and when things could change here at MSP. So MEA starts on Thursday. And according to information that we found on MSP's website, Wednesday is going to begin the busiest rush. Lawmakers aren't scheduled to come back to work on a deal to end the shutdown until Tuesday. So unless they strike a deal immediately, delays at airports nationwide are likely going to continue. Air traffic controllers aren't getting paid right now, so call-outs from work are increasing. And DOT Chief Sean Duffy says 53% of the delays come from a lack of airport staffing.
The problem is, when I've talked to them, they are stressed out. They are wondering, how do they put food on the table? How do they pay their mortgages if their paycheck doesn't come through?
Now, Duffy did go so far as to threaten to fire some of the air traffic controllers who he says are consistent no-shows, going so far as to refer to them as problem children. As for MSP, well, I did reach out to officials here to see exactly what their plans are for next week if the shutdown continues and starts to impact MEA weekend. They tell me that they're going to release more information, possibly as soon as Monday, as to their plans for travelers, so that's something that you can stay tuned for then. Back to you.
We have an update this morning on the deployment of National Guard troops to Chicago. A federal judge has now blocked the move for 2 weeks. In her ruling, she said she found no evidence of rebellion in the state and said the troops could cause civil unrest. A similar case in Oregon is still under consideration. While that plays out, Governor Tim Walz says he's preparing for the possibility of National Guard troops being deployed here to Minnesota.
Local police should know where they're at and those type of things. We're trying to figure out what would that chain of command and communication look like and how would we talk to the public.
It's important to note there has been no indication so far the White House is planning on sending troops here, but Walz says these preparations are necessary just in case. Right now, a wildfire inside a state park on the North Shore is growing. The Crosby Fire has burned about 160 acres in a remote area of the George Crosby Manitou State Park, about an hour and a half north of Duluth. It's caused officials to close part of the Superior hiking trail. These are the latest pictures we have from the scene. Now, you can't see the fire, but there is a lot of smoke in the area. Officials say the fire is being fueled by maple hardwoods and fall leaves on the ground, and the terrain is making it hard to access the area. As of now, the park is still open. Minnesota has until today to comply with federal law on transgender athletes or risk losing federal funding. The U.S. Department of Education claims the state is violating Title IX with its current policy on participation. Now, more than 100 school board members from around the state have signed a letter urging state officials to make the change. While they have opposing views, those on both sides say this is about student safety.
Bathrooms is one issue, but then it goes so much further. It's so much further. It's locker rooms, it's sports, it's, again, how do we protect all children? Because our policies right now don't.
There's nothing safe about discriminating against a group of vulnerable students. It actually makes all kids less safe because then every kid has to worry, am I next?
A spokesperson with the Minnesota Department of Education says they're reviewing the letter and the department remains, quote, committed to ensuring every child has the opportunity to thrive in a safe and supportive school community. Royalton High School is getting ready for their time in the national spotlight tonight. They're in the top 25 of the T-Mobile Friday Night 5G Lights competition, hoping to win $1 million. That accomplishment earned them a special home game celebration. That'll be tonight at 7. And this video, shared by the Royalton Football Facebook page, shows why they need your help to win this money for a field makeover. You can see the students just spray painting where fans can set their own chairs since there's only a handful of bleachers. They've climbed all the way into 8th place after beating out more than 2,000 schools from across the country. They're the only school left in Minnesota. And they can still go higher. You can vote for them every day until October 24th. Stick with us. We have more news and weather coming up after the break.